just apply the thread.
All right, go ahead and tell everybody what's your time
This
and
is
what your
a
recipe
size 8 golden, articulated golden stonefly. Scissors. We got a pair of scissors. Oh, there they are. Okay, for the material list, this would be articulated tail shank. The other shank is a 20mm shank, and then the hook is a V10S size 8. Nymph head evolution, large stonefly head, probably a medium gold bead, and we need to get this passed out, but not till later. These are thin skin, and then yeah, you see how these, you can just 3 each, and then just tab them off. The thin skin, and then you have a wing cutter, if you can see that, in size 6. And then you just pre-cut your wings, and then each fly would take 3. And then also what 0.03 lead. I think you'll need a little wire to join the articulation, and then a few to build up the bulk of the thorax. I like to use just quills, the base of a feather, just because it's tapered, it's thick, and that's exactly the taper you want. I just like to get all everything I'm gonna use, get it ready and have it. All right. So now the first thing you do, you wanna put a little dubbing ball on, and that's gonna keep your goose bite tail separated. A little too much. You put too much on, just pull it off. You want these things buggy, you can see everything hanging out, that doesn't matter. I'll put a couple wraps up there at the eye. Anything big like that I can trim off. So we all know that the 2 sides of the bite, so you want the convex side.
Right there. Down low. Right in front of your hook. There you go. Up.
No.
Up.
There we go.
There you go.
There you go.
So you want put it on so it's faced out. just get it where you want it. Pull your thread down, tighten it, and you get that, see how it splays out? Nice V. I'll pull those butts and I'll put a wrap in front of the butts just to kind of lock them in. Trim that off. And then just wrap and give that a head, cover your butts. Couple turns of a whip finish. And I know it's expensive, but getting a UV light and like this is thin fly finish. Instead of head cement or super glue, I can just wet that. It gives good color, good shine. You can buy it in different colors too. And to give like a hot spot, now I hit that and that's all dried now. So now it's the tail section. Now this is not quite as easy. A little more involved, but it's not bad. So then you put the next shank on, just like that. And then put that into the vise. Now sometimes it can just be tough to keep that out of the way. Now it's the same thing as any other fly. Just apply your thread first. Now if I wasn't tying this articulated, and this was just on a regular hook, it all depends how you want it to sink. Sometimes I might use 3/0 lead to make that taper in the thorax, or the abdomen. But if I was doing that, what I would do, I wouldn't wrap around, because if you look at the stoneflies, they're wider than they are taller. So I would apply them the same way I'm going to apply the quills, but you can do it with lead if you want. Okay, now that I got my thread on, what I like to do is separate the hook. I want this area to be the thickest, and then like a medium, and then just a little bit of taper down here. So I kind of start about midway in the shank, and you notice I use the butt of the quill, bring that just behind the eye. If you can see, it's not right up on the eye. I'm back, probably 3 or 4 wraps of thread. So I have a couple loose wraps, and I want that on the side of the hook. If you all can see that. Now I got one on there, and I'm going to do that with the second one. Just line it up with the first. And wrap forward. Now what I do, now I fold that forward. So now I just doubled the mass of that area. Fold that forward. Keeping it on the side of the hook, pull the thread tight, wrap down. Now I'm pulling back. Now I got 3 pieces of the stem way up there at the top, and that's how you're going to get your taper. Now I fold that down the side again, all the way to the back of the hook or back of the shank, and just keep wrapping. Actually, these are saddle stems. Some of them are thinner. I was using on the other flies I tied, I was tying woolly buggers, and I kept the marabou stems, and those are a lot thicker. So it'd probably be easier to tie with marabou instead of these saddle hackles. And if I need more bulk somewhere, then I just add more bulk, add another stem to it. And then take that down to about 3/4. So I have some material there. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. If you can see, you can start to see that V taper, how it's kind of got big broad shoulders up near the eye, and then it tapers down. Put another one on the other side. That's good tape. All right, then when you get the taper to where you want it, then you can bind everything down a little better. Now you get your string. It doesn't matter what side you tie, if you're using 2 different colors, it doesn't matter what side you tie what string to. The only thing is the top color of the abdomen is always going to go over the top of the hook. So you'll see what I mean by that in a second. So now this thread is just going to add more bulk. So again, you keep it on the side of the hook. And just let it run out the back. I like to tie a knot in my one end, just so that the thread doesn't split open, and that makes it a little easier to handle it. So now when I got both threads applied, I just pull it straight back. You want to keep it on the side of the hook. Pull it straight back. And that's about as far as I want to take my thread. And then you can really, if there's anywhere that you're unhappy with the way it looks, just add more thread to the taper. So you can see my taper. That's a little small, but I'm just gonna keep going. If you look at my flies, they're just a little thicker, and it's because of the stems. But like I said, all it takes is a few more wraps of thread to get it right where you want it. All right, now bring your thread back up to the eye. Now this is, it sounds hard, but it's not. So you take your two strings, separate them. Brown's gonna be your top. Make a loop like that, and just hang it over the hook. The bottom comes around. You know what I'm gonna do? If you have a bobbin cradle, this helps, but if not, just to get the bobbin out of the way, I just half hitched it at the eye. Because you saw how the thread was spinning around it. Okay, so now you got the loop, it's hanging off the other side. Now you take the gold for the bottom, wrap it around, up through that hole, and pull snug. And you can kind of pull it to the rear a little, and that's it. Now you do it for brown on top, loop, bring the gold through. That went over the eye, so you just put that back over the eye. And snug, and that's it. And you just keep, that's your weave. If it drops off, just put it over the top again. When you pull, you can pull straight out. That way it'll keep it a nice straight line. Now you can do these in different sizes. You can tie, if you want to, you can tie nymphs like this. It just makes it look a little nicer, you know, just, if you got the time and feel like doing it. If you're tying smaller flies, these strands of thread are 6 strand. So if you're tying smaller, you might want to pull like 2 strands out, maybe only use 4 strands to, or even if now, like I tie these down into on a single hook, I'll use a size 10. And that's pretty small, that's too much bulk with this 6 string, so then I'll use 4 if I'm tying a smaller fly like that. Thing about this, you can change it color. You can use olive, you can, you know, two-tone olive, black. You can buy the thread that has flash in it. Just any colors. But again, like for around here, the golden stone, olive, and black and brown is what you're mostly using out there. Now when you start getting to the top, I could get one more weave on there before it might start splitting on me, but just work it in the place where you want it. All right. Back up at the eye of the hook, and just what I like to do, I bring the brown thread over, whatever color's on top, I bring that over the top.
You want our advice there, Rich?
No, it's just a little high, it's kind of awkward.
Yeah, I know Sticky's bumping up and down here.
It was loose on me there, I just tightened it.
Okay.
Alright, so I give that one wrap, secure the brown. I'm not pulling on this too much because that might make it, that last weave separate. Get it as nice as you want to get it. Again, if you got some little straggly sticking out of there, don't worry about it, because I mean, you want this thing looking buggy. See the bottom, now the sides, and that would be the top view. Okay, now we got that done. Now this is where the fun begins. Again, you just take your time, and less is more. Just throw down a little thread. Oh, forgot the first thing you want to do is put the stonefly head on, and you'll see that there's a top and a bottom, and a front and a back. That's the top of the head, and that's the bottom of the head. The bottom's a little more rounded, so it's heavier, so when you put it on, it'll sink straight down. So you just apply that to your hook. Now what I like to do is put some lead on. You're going to be using every inch of that hook, and you can see when you have your lively legs, there's not a whole lot of room left over, so I like to fill that whole thing up with lead. That way it gives me a good base to put those legs on. see with that head, you can twist your lead and it'll go up in that head. And it'll hold it there. Just like that. And then now you apply your thread. I like to do it a little loosely. You want, I don't know if y'all can see that, you want the lead tight. You don't want it loose on that hook shank. And you can just tighten it up by twisting like that and then slide it back up into that head. And I just do like palmer it forward. I don't want that thread to get down in between the lead, so I'm just loosely Xing. And I'll just keep going like that until I get enough thread on the lead to where I can just wrap. And you don't need too much because you're just gonna be applying more stuff to it. Next thing is how we attach the articulation. You don't need to use wire for this because it's the tail and the abdomen, there's no hook there. So the fish isn't gonna be on this. If we were using a trailer hook, then definitely you wanna use wire. But if you're just putting these articulations on, you don't have wire, you could just use like, a heavy monofilament, like a 10-pound test or 15-pound test. But I just use a little section of this wire. Only need a couple inches. Now if this was on a trailing hook, if I was attaching a second hook, when you tie in your wire, you'd want to tie it in and fold it over on itself. That way it locks it in. I kind of still do it the same way, but you don't have to with this because you're not going to be fighting the fish from your articulation. But I still try to keep it either kind of on top or on the side. And then you get that little tag end right there. Just fold it over. I'll keep this to the side. Fold that over and just wrap it down. Now to keep everything straight and in line, I'm going to take my bead. This is where you're going to see if your fly is going to be in a straight line. Say for instance, I take that wire down the hook bend that far, that's too far. Then my legs are going to be up here, and then my tail and abdomen are going to be like that. So you want to keep all that in line. Put your bead on the wire. Put your articulated shank on the wire. Wire back through the bead. You can pull that snug. If y'all can see how that's in line pretty good. So when you get it to where you're happy with it, Then lock it in with thread wraps.
Which is that stainless steel part?
What's that?
Is it stainless? Oh,
It's a thin intruder trailer wire hook, or
okay.
hook wire. But like I say, if you had heavy mono, you know, it's like when I'm tying my nymphs, if I tie them articulated, I tie them usually with mono just because I don't want to waste the wire. But
Like a 12-pound test?
oh
12-poundish?
yeah, anything, you know, the whatever you know fits in the articulations that you have, because they all come in different sizes, and then the smaller that you buy, the smaller the eye is going to be, you know. So I'll show you some of the shanks I have, and some of them are a pretty thick gauge wire, and others are just look like a thin wire type. All right, now we got our base on there. Get that wire on there. All right. Everything's in a nice straight line. Next thing is your legs, and I tied with these for 2-3 years at least, and they'd be going, every leg would be going a different way. So again, less thread wraps is more when it comes to this, and I kind of line it up. I want to keep a gap behind the head, and like that first set of legs, I want to like kind of like right there. If you can see that, my thumb's in the way.
There you go. Yeah.
Almost like that,
Perfect.
you know, because you're going to be wrapping and putting some a lot of material there, but you can see how those legs take up that entire shank all the way to the back. So I'll move my thread more towards the middle. I like my first wrap behind that first set of legs. So get it where you want it, put a wrap on it, everything's cool. 2, and go to the front, and if you have a pair of tweezers, now what you can do is pull on that little tag and tighten. It's always a good idea to pull on them when you cut them, because then that'll suck it up back under your wraps. Now if I'm gonna move my thread back, I might not, you know, put too much tension on it. I don't like to do a binding wrap. You see how my thread's in between those 2 legs. I don't want to come to this set and bind it down. You see how those just got all jinky on me and twisted? So you want to bring your thread to that spot and then make your wrap. See how that just went like that? And I just make 1 or 2 wraps, bring my thread back again. And then secure that little butt. Damn. Almost like I know what I'm doing, huh? Almost.
Kind of jinky.
Oh, I'm a little, but I'll show you my other flies. This isn't jinky at all. But the fish don't care. The fish don't. the flies, you know, the flies are eating don't have 6 legs like this. They got a leg like that. They're swimming, they're moving. Ugly flies catch fish. All right. Now we want to start our dubbing. This stuff is fine. I just bought this dubbing because I like the color. I don't like the dubbing.
What brand is that?
I don't even see the bag. Oh, it's Perfect Hatch. It's real coarse. Yeah, that's not going on there very well at all.
Definitely gonna look buggy.
Yeah, it's gonna look buggy for sure. If it stays on. Boy, that's not...
You want me to get you some others?
Synthetic, that's why.
Yeah, maybe. I'll see how this wraps. If not, just get anything that's like golden or... Yeah, that's not on there.
Maybe this kind of, once you make it, use a dubbing loop.
That's what you almost have to do with that stuff.
Yeah.
Either that or just use a different dubbing. Yeah, this is horrible. But it is buggy. All right, so now, see, I'm just keeping it all right back there. Because what you want to do is you want a little bit of bulk so that wing pad sits right on top of it, and then you can get separation between your wings. There we go. All right, now with the, oh sweet. Yeah, now this will work easier. And then I like to X the legs once. And then, so now it just looks like a big ball of dubbing right there over the back end. And then now is your wing pads. So with the, like I showed you with the wing cutter, you just cut 3 pads. And they have the tab, so you just put it on and you get the distance. I like to put it over, like that wing, like over that bead. You can see the bead through the wing. So that'll just camouflage that a little. Make sure your wing's straight. That might be a touch long. There we go. Couple wraps, and you see how that wing is sticking up over that dubbing, and it's hanging out. It's not sitting right on top. It's got a little separation. Yep, right there. And that's what you're trying to achieve, because it'll just give more of a profile, rather if all those three pads were laying flat on top of each other. So now I just trim the tab off, and then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to add dubbing, making another little ball for the next wing to sit on. I'll go a little thinner to start, just to X out, make sure everything joins up. Now I'm just gonna go right in that same spot, because I want that to build up. Now I might not wrap it, twist it so tight on there. Give it a little more bulk. And again, just right there. Get it to where it looks good, and then I should put a little more dubbing on that. Just so that I can bring dubbing over. You can hold the legs out of the way. Now I just X again. And what that X does, if you would just wrap like that around and then move to the next set and wrap, and then go to the next set of legs and wrap, where the legs are, under the legs would be a gap in your dubbing. So that's why you X, because now you're covering that gap up. Now we got another dubbing ball there, and you can pick that out if you want to add a little more bulk. Now it's time for your second wing pad. Kind of just get it to where it overlaps about halfway with that first pad that you put in, and secure it with a couple wraps. See, now I'm not too happy with, see how those two wing pads are just sitting together? I want a little more separation with that. So, in the construction trade, there's a saying, putty and paint makes a carpenter what he ain't. So dubbing is kind of the same thing. You make a mistake, you know, just add more dubbing. And what I'll do, I'll even pull that wing pad out of the way, fold it back over, throw more dubbing there. Now you see the separation between the two wings. You have separation there, so that's going to add more to the profile. Make it look like it's actually alive and swimming. All right, now this part with your last wing pad, you tie it in backwards. So I like to put the thread right behind the head. Just give it a loose wrap to hold it in place. And then this is how I figure out where I want it. Now, it's get it to about half, maybe 3/4 of that previous wing. So that looks good there. I'll give it a little tighter cinch. If it twists, just pull it back. Trim off the excess. Okay, now this is where you're gonna, again, less thread wraps is better, is best. So now you put your dubbing on. This part I'll put it on a little thinner because I don't wanna, I wanna bulk up behind the eyes there. But if you got too much on, it might not be good. So you get it to where it matches the head in size. And then bring it back to that middle section. And then just keep adding dubbing. Adding and dubbing, and you just want that nice taper. You want, this is the bulkiest part of the fly, so you can keep adding dubbing, but then you can will also pick it out, tease it out to give it more of an effect. I want a nice base for that last wing pad to sit on. Okay, now I have a nice little taper to it. Probably could have maybe a touch more. But now you want to end your thread between those first and second pairs of legs. You fold back that wing pad and then make your cinching wraps down, your securing wraps. Oh, I caught a leg. Just a couple wraps there. You want those wraps to be over the top each other. You don't want a big thick piece of thread there. Everything's secure. I just did 1/2 hitch. That's not very secure, but once you touch it up, with some of that UV, just to get a little fancy, because they have antenna on the front. Well, how do you, that's another thing that the UV light is good for. So now to get the antenna on, I'll put a drop of my glue on the bottom. Get that tip in there and then hit it with the light. Now it's what do they call that? A tack weld? That's not my finished thing. I'm just getting it and securing it in place. Another little drop on the other side. Now, some of the stone flies I've seen they kind of look like that, you know, but then their antenna also fold and kind of go out to the side. So just for fun, what I like to do is take more of that UV glue, the resin. This applicator, it comes out in so slowly, which is nice. So just bear with me when I'm trying to do this part. Like to get some resin on there. Pull them back, get a nice little loop made like that, and then hit that with the light. This isn't a step you have to do. It's just something I like to do to give a little more flair to the antenna. Don't shine this in your eyes either. I have a tendency, that's why I go like this, because my wife sits over there, so when I'm shooting it like that, I'm hitting her right, and she's like, hey, you're getting me in the eyes again. All right, so you can kind of see how that, you know, it's just not sticking straight out. It gives a little movement to it, or a little, you just trim them off even. That's it. That's your size 8 articulated woven stonefly.